Nick Spencer and Ryan Ottley come out swinging in their fresh start version of Amazing Spider-Man. Is it everything fans have been hoping for? I'm Stan, and this is Detail Comics. Hey everybody, this is Ira Reviews, the show where I go over a comic book, its story, its art, give you my impressions, and let you know whether it's something you should go back to the comic book shop for or not. Inside this video, we're going to be talking about Amazing Spider-Man #1 from Nick Spencer and Ryan Ottley. This has to be one of the most highly anticipated releases of Marvel's Fresh Start initiative, since it is really the flagship title for Marvel. Some fans were a little worried when Spencer was announced as the writer for the title after his work on Captain America and Secret Empire, but the addition of Ottley, best known for his work on Invincible, helped turn the tide. Can this new team carry the wall crawler to new heights? Let's see what we are working with in issue #1.
I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't highly anticipating the coming of Amazing Spider-Man from Nick Spencer and Ryan Ottley. So despite any kind of confusion, I really enjoyed Captain America Steve Rogers, I enjoyed Secret Empire for the most part, and then overall Spencer's run on everything else, Superior Foes of Spider-Man, as well as his own book with Steve Lieber, The Fix, has been one of my favorites. And Ryan Ottley did a fantastic job in Invincible. So what we get in the very first page is what a lot of people were hoping for. Peter Parker, Mary-Jane, they're together, top of the Empire State Building, it's perfect, and then he wakes up because it seems to be all a dream. Is this going to be the theme? Is it going to be giving Peter Parker what he wants, what he desires, and then taking it from him in a very interesting or possibly not so interesting way? But what we find is a continuation of the Free Comic Book Day issue, finding Peter Parker, Robbie Robertson, and now Boomerang as roommates in an apartment inside New York. While that does set up some home life tension, it doesn't really ring true to the overall theme of this Spider-Man book. As we get a little bit more involved, there's this giant portal has opened up and the world's heroes are combating millions upon millions of aliens that are running amok across the world. And when Spider-Man shows up, pretty much no one is happy to see him. And that's because a few weeks ago, when he went to stop bank robbery and he came face to face with the vault, he sees instead Mayor Wilson Fisk, who's there to congratulate him, who gives him the key to New York City. And this seems all too good to be true for Peter Parker, but the real thing is that Kingpin has his own scheme, has his own plan. He's trying to isolate the wall crawler to make him feel so alone, so destitute, that he can just squash him like a bug, which leaves Wilson Fisk needing a few new speechwriters. But the real key is that a lot of things have been happening to Peter Parker. You know, it seems like he's got a really good job at the Daily Bugle. He's been posting all these great articles. A lot of things have been fantastic. But when he goes to an unveiling at ESU, which is dealing with a lot of plagiarism, it's dealing with a lot of resources that are being used inside the Marvel Universe. We're talking transdimensional gateways, hidden cells of scrolls, selling your soul to Mephisto, which is an obvious theme, but what it says is that there are means to plagiarize something well beyond what our just average Googling does today. And that's interesting because what we find is Peter's called up on stage, he's determined to be a fraud, but it's not actually him being a fraud, it was the paper that Otto Octavius wrote while he was in Spider-Man's body. So Peter wrote it, but it was a consciousness that was different, and that just leads to a cascade of things that we're going to call the Parker luck. He gets fired from the Daily Bugle, he goes to see Mary-Jane, she doesn't necessarily offer him the kind of support that he's looking for, and he is so far gone that when he goes to Aunt May, she gives him this terrible speech. Not necessarily bad, but it just feels so hurtful because Aunt May has stood by him through so many things, especially when it comes to Parker Industries and the various aspects of his life that have been taking place over the last 10 years or so, and then she finds that him being a fraud in some sense. That is one of the worst things, because it's surprising to her that he won't take responsibility for the matter, which is crazy because you think great power, great responsibility when it comes to Spider-Man. What we really find is that during this issue, it is more about Nick Spencer and Ryan Ottley getting inside Spider-Man's skin. There's a lot of voiceover, there's a lot of internal monologue, especially when we're dealing with the latter half of the book. As these millions of aliens rain down from the sky, we see Spider-Man take off. Black Cat's in the background, and he makes a bye Felicia joke, which, thank God it's not his last one, but he sends himself hurtling up into the sky and comes face to face with his own villain, Mysterio, who seems to be the source of everything. And it's a really interesting moment because it parallels Spider-Man's own journey currently. You know, he's really sick and tired of trying the same thing over and over, so Mysterio's just like, why not try to murder everyone all at once? And this is a theme that we saw inside Old Man Logan from Mark Millar. That's the whole reason that Wolverine became Old Man Logan. But given this perspective, this fresh new take on life, Peter goes to the person that he feels that will support him the most. And who does it turn out to be? Mary-Jane Watson. So thematically, it looks like Marvel, Nick Spencer and Ryan Ottley are going to be undoing, or at least giving the presentation that they will be undoing one more day. We're going to see the reuniting of Mary Jane. We're going to see Peter Parker back in a little bit more troublesome time. You know, while Dan Slott did amazing things as far as the progress of Spider-Man, turning him into a multi-billionaire, a global conglomerate, giving him a higher education that he never had the opportunity to finish himself, it looks like everything that has been done at the end of Slott's run to kind of drop Spider-Man down the mountain that he had risen up to, this is Spencer's opportunity to take Spider-Man in a different direction. Some people might consider this a bit derivative. You know, it might not necessarily be as progressive as one would hope, simply because he's not making those strides forward. He's not looking at new relationships. He's not running his own company. The idea is now, it's not Otto Octavius creating this foundation for Peter Parker and Peter Parker taking advantage of it. It's Peter Parker earning the kind of accolades and prestige that we all think he should have, and fighting against fate, because you've got to remember Mephisto still owns this deal. He owns the marriage of Peter Parker and Mary Jane, which is going to lead to some sort of ultimate conflict in the future if they do decide to get back together, or he's going to be burdened with some sort of terrible luck that is going to drive them apart. But the story doesn't end there, even though it seems like it. What we do is we get the actual backstory of Mysterio, which introduces what seems to be a brand new villain that is even more ferocious and fearsome when it comes to illusion and actual psychosis, creation of insanity, these giant centipedes and insects just pouring all over everything inside the courtroom, exploding from people's guts. It's just absolutely insane. But it does give us something fearsome, something to be wary of in the future. There's a lot of things going on in this book, and I'm really excited to see where this goes. The development of Spencer as a writer on this one is just, it's great. You can see a real passion for Spider-Man. You've got an understanding of the character, and you've got some serious developmental prospects that are going to be happening inside the title. As for Ryan Ottley, even though you've only seen him really inside Invincible from Robert Kirkman, what you're going to see is a very sharp, hard-edged version of these characters, not necessarily as stylized as Humberto Ramos, but it's still going to have its own flair, and I think that the strong posing and action, I really enjoy everything about Ryan Ottley's art on this title, and I think he's a great fit for the character. I can't wait to see what kind of stories these two put together, but I want to know what you guys thought of Amazing Spider-Man #1, so hit me up in the comments down below and we can start that conversation. As always, if you like what you see, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to get more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books, comic book movies, comic book TV shows and games, and anything and everything inside the world of comics.